Now, growing up, there were a lot of reasons for me not to believe at all. Matter of fact, as a child, I was physically abused and emotionally abused by my mother, no father, and I was being sexually abused in the community. When I went to prison, it was on charges, federal charges. I've been in prison for 8 years. I had taken what had been happening to me and I projected it onto other people, unfortunately. I knew I wanted to change that part of my life, but I didn't know how. I was just something to satisfy everybody else, not a person, not somebody who had value or meaning. When I was 12 years old, I sat down with a pastor, told him that I was being abused sexually, emotionally, physically, and he accused me of being God's worst enemy, of being Satan's spawn. I had struggled for many years trying to be part of a church, and I just couldn't get there because all I kept hearing was, "You're not worthy." All I saw was judgment. There was no way I was going to be a Christian or go back to church.
So my name is Troy Heinzelman. I am the Senior Relationship Manager / Instructor for 70x7. I get to walk alongside of those in their transitions, whether it be stagnation of mindset, addiction, or incarceration. February 23rd, 2012, I was released from the Federal Bureau of Prisons. I had my ABC plan, and then God showed me that neither one of those were what He called me to do. In my transition out, I've had to deal with plenty of hardships to prove that's who I am and that I'm called to be here. We all love when people forgive us for our shortcomings or where we failed short. But it's an even more powerful place to be in when you're able to forgive somebody else and give that gratefulness to somebody else. The mentee, I believe in mentoring, have somebody that's willing to be that so-called candlelight or candlestick on the table. Because we're all walking through a darkness, we're all walking through a tunnel. But if I don't see light at any which way of this tunnel, I'm gonna be on a long walk. A mentor, what he's supposed to do is provide that light on the path. And the mentee, all he's supposed to do is submit to that light. If he can submit to that light, he's gonna walk into the best life he ever knew would existed.
I went to see Troy for the intake. Not expecting much. I figured that was gonna be, I was just gonna go in and that was gonna be that, right? So I went in and I sat down with Troy, and it was very, very interesting because right away, it was the first person since I had been out of prison who really saw me and heard me. In fact, that really hadn't happened in my whole life. I made it very clearly known I was not a religious person. And Troy said, "I get it, I understand." And we started talking, and he started sharing his experience, and that started planting some seeds in my head.
My name is Mark Gottschall, and I'm the facility director at Crossroads Bible Church. And my connection with 70x7 is that we are a serving site on Tuesday mornings for 70x7. So we have anywhere from 4 to 10 people show up that help us around the building, resetting chairs, vacuuming carpets, cleaning the kids area, just things like that. Anybody going through the program has an ability to further their skills, learn how to be valued.
First time at Crossroads volunteering there, I told Mark in no uncertain terms, "I'm an atheist." And Mark was like, "That's okay." Now, I didn't expect that from somebody in church. I expected a sermon. I expected judgment. He planted a lot of seeds and asked me a lot of questions, but he never, ever judged me. He saw me and he heard me.
Part of what I want to do is understand what their walk with the Lord is, So I want to love on them. I'm not going to judge them. I personally have been down that road of having some of that judgment, and so I don't want to carry that judgment on to anybody else.
As I'm going through 70 times 7, I'm doing the volunteer work, I didn't really want to listen, but I couldn't ignore that small voice. It kept building inside of me. And I started to talk to Troy about faith and what it really meant. And I started to talk to Mark about what faith really meant. And they never pushed me in any direction. They just said, well, it's about a relationship that you'll be led to. It's there for you if you want to listen, if you want to hear that small voice. And then one day, I heard a song, and wow, it was amazing because everything that Mark and Troy had been telling me came together. And it was a song that talked about God's story of us, of me. That He writes my story. God writes our stories. It's an amazing song. Part of the lyrics are just amazing. My mess, your message. And I think that's so powerful because even in my mess, He has a message. And I think that's amazing.